Whatever. Yeah, okay, this works enough, I guess. And a little bit sore from the last time I played any, but granted, that was just last night. Okay. And for anyone who's watching now or in the future, sorry I don't have my camera up. Honest to God, sometimes I really just don't feel like being on the camera. Just sharing with people, I guess. And I guess that'll be it. So, this is also my first time streaming the Switch this way. And thankfully Nintendo aren't a bunch of absolute douchebags about it anymore. Because remember when Nintendo outright went out of their way to, like, copyright strike everyone who's playing their games back then? And it's only been, like, in recent times that they've actually gone, okay, we won't now. And you're just like, the hell's your guys' deal with that? Let's be real here. This is free advertisement for people who wants to enjoy this kind of game. Just throwing the news of this game around, letting people see the gameplay. Because let's be real, most advertisements, especially as a game is getting ready to launch, doesn't always tend to have every little thing that you end up actually seeing in the final product. So that's even more why, let's be real, Let's Plays and reviewers on platforms like YouTube is very important, actually, for especially getting games out there, for people to even care. And I will say this is very fun as someone who went out of his way to get a Wii, in part due to stuff like Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. They may have been pack-in games for the most part, but they were damn fun. And Wii Sports Resort I ended up probably putting most time into because of the Chambara game. Well, back then on Wii Sports Resort, it was called Swordplay, if I recall right. And I went out of my way to literally get full-on pro for that one, as well as boxing on the original Wii Sports. And while there's a lot of fun sports here in this new Nintendo Switch sports game, gotta be real, when they did shit like we'll have tennis and badminton, I'm immediately like, that's a little too similar. Why couldn't you guys have just given us boxing again, or hell, even baseball? Because baseball with these new motion controls would be so fun. Also a little weird how the online works, even though I'm definitely pleased that this is even a thing. Online for Nintendo Switch Sports is very fun. Of course, on one hand, probably for the better, and on the other hand, also censorship in some ways to just not allow you to have the ability to like talk over
Chambara.
voice chat, but probably because they didn't want people to freaking
Let's
shit
go.
talk each other. Let's be real. But yeah, I've actually made Chambara Pro after playing enough times, and I'm on the D rank right now. Will I ever get farther? News. Especially because playing the likes of, jeez.
Round one.
Why do you have an ice cream sword, bro? That's a little weird.
Ready? Fight!
Shit. Shit.
Draw.
Damn. Okay. Not too bad. Just
Round two.
little annoyed there.
Ready? Fight! KO.
Boom. Like, knock the fuck out, bitch. Ugh. Man. And yes, I'm still using a me because some of the characters look a
Ready?
little too androgynous for my taste.
Fight! Draw.
Damn.
Finish.
Actually, won that. Woo! Gotta say though, I don't think I'm gonna ever wanna. Yes, it is. Stop asking me, assholes. I gotta say, probably not gonna pay that price for the Switch 2, if only because it's dumbfoundingly ridiculous. Like the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro prices are ridiculous. Nintendo are a bunch of freaking egotistical assholes, it seems like now, which is just fucking frustrating. Especially when they used to not care so much about the graphics and all that shit anyways. But a little weird though how the new Zelda game went. I got my Switch with Zelda Breath of the Wild around the time that it released, so it had to be bought off a fucking scalper for an extra $100. Yay! But it wasn't bought by me, it was bought by a catfish relationship, and I'll just leave it at that, so that if that chick ever, if they are a chick, who the hell knows, if they're ever watching this, that they're not going to be all, you bullshitted you about me online, how dare you. I'm just gonna keep it at that shit and keep it at that. But the newer Zelda stuff, I can't say I really care for much. I kind of preferred the older structured Zelda games, like Twilight Princess. That was
Chambara.
probably my favorite Zelda game, and still
Here we
is.
go.
And it's frustrating that the remasters are only on the Wii U instead of, you know, putting them on Switch too, because let's be real, it really could stand to.
Round one.
What the hell? My other... Shit. My other controller is
Ready?
not... Oh, there it is. Jeez, that was weird.
KO. Round two.
That was weird though. The X button literally didn't react at all on
Ready?
my right Joy-Con. That was a little weird. Oh,
KO.
damn. Okay.
Round three. Ready? Fight. KO.
Yeah. Ah. Wake up time, motherfuckers.
Finish.
The thing that probably bugs me the most about the new Zelda,
Ready
not
go.
just the fact that you were stuck dealing with your items breaking all the damn time, but gotta say, very disturbing for a kids game to have a freaking cross-dressing Link.
Yay.
Because the fact that Link was cross-dressing and looking like he enjoyed it way too much is beyond inappropriate right there, dude. And, damn sure Nintendo should be fucking ashamed of themselves making that an E10 game. When in reality, they should have just made it a deeper teen game at the very damn least. Especially when Twilight Princess was a deeper teen Zelda game, and they didn't mind that. And not to mention, the ESRB is controlled by the game companies anyway. So it was always up to Nintendo what rating it was going to get. Bottom line. It wasn't like Nintendo was just a third party to that decision. And in the end, I just can't say I'm as invested in Breath of the Wild as I was with the other games. And it's why I actually got rid of it. It's one of the games that I got rid of for a reason. and can't say I ever want to get it back. Can't say I ever want to even play the other one, to be honest. It's just not appealing, like older Zelda 3 experiences were. Hell, the manga actually also gave the characters of Link a proper character and made him more distinct, and they could have easily done that in the new one.
Chambara. Let's go. Round one.
Alright.
Ready?
Jeez. Talk about a super girly sword collection there, dude. Son of a bitch.
Draw.
Damn, I almost freaking lost that match there, but it actually came out a draw. Huh. Alright.
Round two. Ready? Fight! KO.
Yeah! What?
Round three. Ready? Fight!
Gotta say, it's a little bit finicky though sometimes, because I think the Wii was at an advantage having both the Motion Plus at a later time, as well as also having the likes of the sensor bar. Oh, damn. Nice one. Alright. Sudden
Final
death
round.
round. Oh boy.
Ready? Fight!
Oh. Good one. Good one.
Finish.
Oh, better take away some. Something I can't say I'm a fan of, though, is that it seems like you're not able to adjust the bowling thing if you just want to play some normal style bowling. And yet, that seemed to be something you could do easily enough in past games, just saying. At least I remember it being something you could mess with free enough. Like, the 100-pin bowling used to be a thing on Wii Sports Resort, and I remember being able to unlock that and how fun that was. But it's a little strange when bowling tends to do some super over-the-top weird bowling lane thing out of nowhere on you, and you're just like, I'd rather not, please. It could still be fun, but definitely not what I want to be playing always. That's for damn sure.
Here we go. The contestants.
Just let me. Is it going to be some old bowling lanes
Round 1.
again, finally? Or is it going to be some random crap again out of nowhere? It also throws you off when you're switching to this from Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort, and suddenly the bowling ball, you don't have to let go of the trigger to let it roll down the lane. You have to literally hold on to the trigger now, which is different, to put it lightly, and it throws you off. There's a couple times where I just freaking tried to play and I accidentally dropped it. Also, why the hell are pants like that ever a thing? Like, just wear some shorts or just wear some pants. Choose one or the other. Looks freaking weird as hell, honestly. At least I keep on getting spares. The bowling can still be very fun though. Although I think it was probably just all too easy maybe on the Wii version to line up those strikes and just get them one after the other like crazy. Made it very easy to just absolutely own the likes of the bowling game on Wii Sports, and just barely the same on Wii Sports Resort, I'd say. It was a little awkward doing the golf though, when just barely twisting your controller causes the club to barely lean in one direction or another. Feels a little awkward is all. Also, when it comes to these more detailed avatars in this game, sometimes I'm like, I wonder if Nintendo was going to actually upgrade the Mii's, but then decided, nah, let's just leave it for this one game. I wouldn't be surprised.
Round 2.
Also, it seems like game companies love to try and do the backwards compatible, but only for the games we want to be kind of added to it. And I think it's probably them just trying to ensure that you'll get a new port of it.
Nice pair.
Like, for example, PlayStation 5 getting the Last of Us remasters, and then, you know, probably holding back on the PS4 versions on people. At least I wouldn't be surprised. I just think that a lot of these companies are holding back on the ability to do true backwards compatibility because they don't want the updated releases to be unable to sell as well because of it, which is just dumb, honestly. Like, there just seems to be a lot of that probably going on. Because let's be real, with PlayStation alone, it isn't like their games keep having a new format aside from when they switched to Blu-ray. Yes, we could still read PS2 and PS1 games just fine. So, it's as if they're bullshitting.
Spare.
I mean, let's be real. There's no reason that, for example, the PS4, let alone the PS5, can't play a PS1 game being inserted into the disk drive. It could more than pull that off, easily. I mean, hell, it's already more than doable with a lot of emulators that are especially damn near nailed. The likes of PlayStation 1 emulation alone is so nailed that, I mean, to begin with, you're able to just connect a CD drive to your computer and just pop in the game in question and just play it. Which is part of what makes emulation not so illegal.
Strength.
I mean, just PlayStation 1 alone can be more than handled that way.
Nice spare.
And damn sure too, I would be more than happy to still have access to PS1 games on a PS4 and 5. If only because I actually grew up playing some, so I actually give a shit about those games still. And they were more than fun even still. Hell, I even actually bought some digitally for my PS3. Some that I even loved from my childhood, like the Toy Story 2 game. That's
Spare.
a really, really amazing collectathon platformer. Definitely very fun, and could easily be remade, and that thing would sell like crazy, guaranteed. But, you know, Disney's too busy ruining Marvel and Star Wars and even shit that they made. Even freaking Lilo and Stitch ain't safe. After all, we just got the recent remakes, and as someone who actually grew up on the original Lilo and Stitch, it is very hard to enjoy the remake. Especially when it seems like they want to try and take out the whole message of Ohana at the end, when they not only remove David, but they also try to just make it about Nani going to college at the end. Which just is a bit ridiculous, if you ask me. I'm probably not winning this. Whatever, I guess. I seem to have a lot of Japanese players. But then again, I tend to play a bit late with this game. Final results. Yeah, I still made second place, so...
Finish.
Little annoying how they go out of their way to knock you out being able to play the rest of the game.
Go get him.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm now on the pro bowling stuff too. Alright. Damn. I can say I don't want to get the furry, so I'll keep on, I guess, collecting this stuff.
Yeah. Got it.
It's just so annoying that it can't just be there to make use of to create your character. So it wasn't like you had to, back then, play for Wii Sports in order to customize a Mii. Seriously, though, this feels way too repetitive. Volleyball, badminton, and tennis. Very similar games in many ways, especially badminton and tennis, where you guys trying to do that just feels like padding. Because they're like, oh, we'll just reuse the coding for tennis and for badminton. And maybe just change it a little bit more for volleyball, but we'll still be able to use the code just enough. I'm pretty sure that was something from Wii Sports Resort that I didn't care for back then, really. At most, I really do just wish that there was baseball and boxing on this one. Just because baseball and boxing on the original Wii Sports was so much fun. That would be ridiculously fun to play online. But maybe they didn't want to also perhaps give us the ability to like make our own teams and shit, which would kind of be fun if you could like try and do your own teams and then just simply go along doing like full team mode games where you could perhaps build your team up to being pro or something. I mean, it would be fun. T. Okay. Quite the fucking name
Chambara.
there. Just T.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's, I'm sorry, I'm just...
Round one. Ready?
Huh.
Fight. Round two. Ready?
I wonder if they actually held back the boxing because they thought maybe it would take away from, like, arms getting sales or something like that. At least I wouldn't be surprised. Gotta say, though, it really is hard to care about PlayStation much anymore, but Nintendo is really trying to push it too. I'm not buying a Switch 2 at that price. They better freaking not only drastically cut it, but also cut the terms of service telling me that they can brick my console for whatever reason they deem. Which is a load of bullshit when that means that they could just do it. Rather than it being because you tried to jailbreak it. It doesn't specifically say, if you jailbreak it, we're bricking you. No, it says, we brick you for whatever reason we deem necessary, or we deem worthy. It's very vague.
Chambara. Here we go.
And definitely that kind of vague terms of service crap is for a reason.
Round one. Ready? Fight! KO.
Boom. Whew.
Round two. Ready? Fight! Draw. Round three. Ready? Fight!
Oh, damn. Okay, come on. Let's do the
Final round.
freaking sudden death round.
Ready? Fight! KO. Finish. Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, as I'm like, it's an open world or whatever, so what the hell are you telling me about a freaking tourist bus? Just saying, game. A little weird. Can't be used with these because we say so. Let's keep this up and see if we can somehow make C minus rank. And might just leave it at that. I just won't lie if they were doing this whole thing. I know that they were switching to HD and all that, but you mean to tell me that none of the work from the Wii switched over to the Switch? Like, none of the work for bowling switched over, none of the work for golf switched over? I mean, just alone for golf, we have courses from both Resort and the original game. So I find it hard to believe that this was really all they could do for sports.
Chambara. Here we
But
go.
for all we know, they might just do a Nintendo Switch Sports Resort or some shit for the Switch 2 and charge extra and not allow you to play Switch Sports on the Switch 2 for the sake of being unable to then make money
Round
off of
one.
it.
Ready? Fight! KO. Round two.
I also kind of enjoyed playing my own music, but because YouTube is such a dick
Ready?
about, hey, you don't own that song, how dare you? It's a little hard to want to do that while I'm playing for YouTube right now.
KO.
Sometimes it feels like it doesn't quite register my sword slashes right, to where
Round
sometimes it's just not really.
Ready? Fight! KO.
Oh, yeah. Whew.
Finish.
It's very fun for sure. But I think the sensor bar probably did a lot more for the Wii motion capturing than people gave it credit for. Because definitely, I'm also someone who at first grew up with the PlayStation Move on the PS3 because I grew up with the PS3 during that generation mainly. And to be fair, they were giving the better, more appealing setup of free online and some much more varied exclusives. For sure, Infamous was probably my favorite exclusive that PlayStation pulled off that generation. Both the original, the sequel, and while I wasn't too big on Festival of Blood, it was still a good time. And I also did enjoy Second Son, but I played that when the PS4 came out, and I haven't touched that one since then, but part of me kind of wants to actually get that back along with First Light and see how the Infamous series as a whole stacks up, because at most, I'm eventually going to play Ghost of Tsushima for the channel, because I was very trusting, simply because Sucker Punch. I also love Sly Cooper, and I really, really wished that fourth game was better than it ended up being, even though it wasn't terrible in the gameplay department at least. But definitely on the front of story, it was just clearly not nearly as engaging of storytelling.
Chambara. Let's go.
At least, definitely wasn't for me, and it sucks that, I guess, canonically, Sly is just stuck in the desert waiting for people to kind of, somehow get him out of there eventually. And definitely, I feel bad for him, because, he was definitely one of my favorite, protagonists
Round one.
on PlayStation.
Ready?
Another Tron sword.
Fight. KO.
Yeah. PlayStation just always had the more varied
Round two.
exclusives, but it does seem like now they just are focusing on
Ready?
lesbians and trannies and just whatever LGBTQ garbage they can throw in. I mean, definitely Naughty Dog is not nearly the company it used to be. At most, you can say, oh, they make the games look good. But I don't think that was much of a good thing for Last of Us Part 2, forcing people to watch a freaking sex scene. Which I think says just how much that Neil Druckmann guy is quite a creeper. He literally takes over from Amy Hennig after the original Last of Us, and makes the DLC story where suddenly Ellie, the character who was in the original story, and even at the time that the DLC story takes place, was, you know, a preteen, or about teenage years. And she was talking at the end of the original game about how that friend, keyword friend, of hers was bit alongside her, and that she didn't survive like she somehow did, and that being why she was prepared to give up her life for the nightmare of the apocalypse day. And then we go to the DLC, and suddenly she's freaking sucking face with her at the end. Both like preteen years girls just suddenly sucking face at the end out of nowhere. And then we get Last of Us Part 2, and suddenly not only lesbians sucking face, but a lot of now lesbians literally fucking on camera, and also clearly being steroid abusers. So, you know, shit that people don't want to fucking really see, unless I guess they got some really messed up things. Let's be real, all of us can be messed up in many ways. I'm just saying, damn sure though, it's far from the appeal that Naughty Dog used to have, with stuff like the original Crash Bandicoots that I actually grew up on. I grew up on the original versions on PS1 because I had friends in my childhood who already were playing the original Crash Bandicoot PS1 games. And every time I ever moved on to the sequels or whatever, I was just every time like, yeah, this doesn't feel nearly as good. Like, even though I thought Rapid Cortex was alright at best, I was also very much in a sense of, not bad feeling. And also, just, like, how much more creative stuff like Jak and Daxter was. Now we just got friggin' Last of Us, which is a third-person, you know, apocalyptic-themed shooter. And let's be real, with also Resident Evil, let alone Silent Hill, let alone just all these different types of franchises like that, it is far, far from a new idea. To where, at most, people enjoy Last of Us for the story being so incredible, on top of the graphics, giving a very immersive feeling to the original game. But, dude, the freaking constant focus on lesbian shipping and lesbian relationships. Hell, that's the kind of shit that ruined RWBY. The Rooster Teeth CGI show that started on YouTube, that was made with help from, man, I feel bad I don't remember his name. The creator was a guy who was pretty, what's the word I'm looking for here? Integral to Red vs. Blue, mainly for the fight scenes. And he then made RWBY, and the first 3 seasons, or volumes, whatever the hell you want to call them, definitely reflected his work in it all. And the story was also actually interesting. But then, like, 1 volume went by, it was fine. But then the next volume went by, and this was all after the guy died. After volume 4, or after volume 3, he died from, I think, something like ALS, if I'm recalling right. And,
Chambara.
he literally freaking, supposedly on his deathbed, wrote out the story for RWBY, the rest of it, so that they could follow it, and then the next thing you know, once Volume 5 comes around, they're already shipping Yang and Blake together out of nowhere. Going, lesbian shit, that's what everyone came here for. Not the action, not the story, not the characters, lesbian romance, because fuck you, you're gonna look at this shit whether you want to or not.
Ready? Fight!
Like, I didn't watch RWBY anymore after Volume 5. when I was noticing the weird freaking lesbian relationship they were suddenly putting Yang and Blake into. And it was clear that that wasn't even the plan in the first place. If there was any sort of romance shit going on with Blake, for example, it was clearly with the character of Sun, who she could relate to and everything. But, nah. Instead, better instead, freaking suddenly ensure that in Blake or thing. And it was clearly more just because there was a side of the fan base that went a little too into the likes of Yang and Blake being an item. Like, what were they doing? Going on to Rule 34 and just looking up the Yang and Blake porn and how much there was of that? I mean, seriously, people. It was ridiculous. And it easily lost my interest in that season. I mean, like, I really never went back to Ruby because of it.
Yes.
And not only did I never go back to Ruby, huh. Oh, shush. If anything, it's also a good workout for me. But I seriously never went back to Ruby after that. At most, I'm just interested in anime, probably, for entertainment now, because at least, generally speaking, Japan doesn't really care to censor crap and make it all woke or politically correct, or whatever the hell they want to call it when they're censoring things like crazy. Because I may be a Christian, but this censorship thing is never going to end well, people. Let's be fucking real here. Censorship is only going to end up making things a lot worse. Guaranteed. And there's still, like, probably the newest anime thing I engaged with not long back was watching all of what was done for Sword Art Online that was dubbed, including the kind of alternate take on Season 1 where it seemed like it was mainly from Asuna's perspective. It was good, actually. Because at most, I think Sword Art Online suffers from that second season, where they had the random, really over-the-top, molesting, creepy kind of villain who wouldn't stop talking up about how he's going to basically
Chambara.
brainwash Asuna to be his chick.
Here we go.
When she absolutely hates him. And if that wasn't bad enough, you had the freaking random incest crap out of nowhere. Which was super yikes. Made it very hard
Round one.
to
Ready.
not be
Fight.
so weird how it seems like people can be so precise and yet I can't sometimes. And it just messes it up and instead makes it look like I did things like
Round two.
a sideways slash when I did a vertical slash in
Ready?
real life.
Fight.
just in general,
Ready?
it was better off not including at least the incest plot, because at least you can say a creeper of a villain like that guy in Sugo was easy to hate, and that makes him kind of a good villain in that regard. And to be fair, that one friend of Suno's in the third season was kind of also a creeper too, so yeah.
Final round.
But for sure, the games for Sword Art Online, super
Ready?
disappointment because it was kind of like
Fight!
it was a no-brainer that a Sword Art Online game was something that could be good. It depends on the effort put into it, though, because clearly anime games are not just going to be good. Anime games can be just as bad as any other licensed game if the people behind it aren't giving a shit enough. For sure, like, I've played a lot of Naruto games since I'm a fan of that franchise, and while I don't give a shit about Boruto, I loved Naruto up to Shippuden plenty, and I played quite a few games. Specifically, though, for example, not to sound like an ass towards the developers, who probably still put in a lot of effort by all means, but I gotta say, the Uzumaki Chronicles games from the Naruto franchise is very engaging, honestly. They're like, at most, they're functional, and they play okay, but they're also very for especially what is supposed to be like an action RPG for the Naruto franchise. But, like, for sure, you would, for example, want an open world in such a situation. That's for damn sure. Like, especially with something like Naruto, for example. But also, those guys were used to false advertise a game to me, admittedly, because I didn't freaking realize it when I bought them. But I bought them because I was an avid fan of Full Metal Alchemist, probably my favorite anime. And I wouldn't say just watch Brotherhood, I say watch both, because both are absolutely a great time. Vic Mignogna is also a pretty nice guy, and one of my favorite dub voice actors out there. And it's a shame what happened to that guy when he had all that false claims of harassment that damn near cost him his career. But thankfully it didn't, and his character, the character he played of Edward Elric in Full Metal Alchemist is probably my favorite anime protagonist, I'd say. Him and Alphonse are very engaging characters, and thing is, I randomly saw in the used games section one day a PS2 game for Full Metal Alchemist. I'm like, Full Metal Alchemist? On PS2? And then I saw on the front the only developer name there ever could be, Square Enix. And about that time I found out, oh shit, they actually own the rights to Full Metal Alchemist. Well, this should be great. So, you know, I bought the game, I took it back, and I was like, this doesn't feel nearly as good as I thought it was going to be. Why does this also feel weirdly familiar. And slowly but surely, I found out that it's actually the developers behind the Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles series. And when you really realize just how over the top cheap their RPGs are, it loses all the appeal that you once had when you saw, for example, Square Enix on the cover instead of this specific developer. I don't even remember their names, honestly. But but that's the thing, though. Like, Square Enix has their name on the front of every Full Metal Alchemist game, despite being cheap, licensed games rather than something more worth the effort, like Kingdom Hearts had been for Square Enix and even Disney, despite how much I think Disney needs to get their fucking asses kicked at this point in time. I mean, freaking Full Metal Alchemist, developed by Square Enix proper, should be more than amazing. Because if you had that done by, like, the teams that's handling stuff like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, it would be a shoo-in to being a fantastic experience. To have an open world Full Metal Alchemist experience. Whether you would base it exclusively on the manga storyline, or if you would ever care to even pull from what the original anime did as well for the story. It would be so much fun. It would be engaging, and that open world experience would also be so much fun, guaranteed. As well as the fact that you could also have multiple characters, because yes, of course, it would be probably expected to be a game where you're solely playing as Edward, but at the same time, it would be badass if you also, let's say, got to also play moments in the story with the other characters, like Izumi, Roy Mustang, hell, maybe even expand on Major Hughes. Stuff like that would be very interesting. Hell, it would also be interesting if we had
Chambara.
the ability to see the story through Scar's eyes a little bit more,
Let's
too.
go.
Stuff like that alone would also sell it to fans easily. Because when you have a good licensed game or a franchise, it can be awesome. I mean, damn sure, I love the Ultimate Ninja and Ultimate Ninja Storm games. And while I'm not the biggest, while I'm not very invested in, let's say, the likes of Dragon Ball, despite how much I genuinely did try to understand the appeal and tried to be a fan, as I had some friends online who was into it. It was just not very easy to get into, especially how long it is. Naruto, I kind of just have the bias because I started with it for anime.
Round 2.
And Bleach just mainly got me invested with how much more mature it was off the bat because it was on Adult Swim and not just Cartoon Network or something, going out of their way to try and censor the thing. I mean, it definitely wasn't like freaking it was a 4-kids dub. Oh god, that would be ridiculous. Now that I'm thinking about that. Like, I can only kind of enjoy the 4-kids dub of Sonic X out of nostalgia. Because, that was, like, one of my favorite Sonic shows, and, versus the likes of, you know, the likes of, let's say, uh, what we had for Sonic cartoons at the time, aside from Sonic X, was, the stuff where Jaleel White was voicing. And while I can still enjoy his version of Sonic to a decent degree, I also, I immediately preferred Jason Griffith. And definitely, as the years went on with the 4Kids cast into games proper, I think they have been the definitive voice cast. To where I'm still a little bummed that they were not brought back after the likes of Sonic Unleashed. And, what else? Man. I'm trying to remember that one on the Wii that came out a little bit after Unleashed. It was like Sonic and the Black Knight or something like that. It was like a pseudo-sequel to the Secret Rings game that apparently only came about after the Wii wasn't powerful enough to port over Sonic 06.
Chambara. Let's go.
Definitely. Though, for what anime games I have played, I'd say Naruto and Dragon Ball, and even Bleach has some of the best ones, probably. In the case of Bleach, I mainly have experience with Dark Souls, but I also really want to get the game
Round
for
one.
PS3 that I admittedly can't remember the name of. But it was during one of my
Ready?
favorite arcs in the show, so it's a little hard to
Fight.
not love the idea of... Oh, fucker. Good one. But,
Round
for
two.
as much as I may not be a Dragon Ball fan, from the games that I have played, like
Ready?
Raging Blast and Budokai Tenkaichi, yeah, I get the appeal of games that it stands for. And it's probably the easier way to get into Dragon Ball.
KO.
Because it cuts a lot of the story fluff from the
Round three.
all the freaking extended crap,
Ready?
the filler. Because it really is obvious when you realize that it really is obvious to tell that when a big anime like Bleach or even Naruto, let alone Dragon Ball, when they switch from a canonical episode to
Finish.
something that they just made up to give the writer time. It's one of the reasons why I know for a fact I am not trying One Piece, and you could not pay me enough to try it. It's also a little bit nightmare fuel-y, to put it lightly. Because seriously, those designs are very, very otherworldly in a way that can't say I find appealing.
Chambara.
But man, oh yeah, I actually also tried Jump Force, but was super annoyed that they didn't even, or well, not Jump Force. It was the one that preceded it that didn't have Dragon Ball,
Let's go.
but had Bleach and Naruto and One Piece, and then all the other extra stuff that includes stuff that clearly hasn't been dubbed yet, but they didn't care to even dub it, despite how much there was that actually did have dubs being involved. Which is just
Round one.
ridiculous, honestly.
Ready?
to kill me. It's Attack of the Furries! Oh no. Protect this man.
KO.
Seriously, though,
Round 2.
I really do love the Naruto games, the Ultimate Ninja Storm ones.
Ready?
I got all the remasters on PS4, along with the fourth Storm game that I just don't care about the Naruto DLC for. So don't expect me to ever play that with the Naruto crap involved, because I'd rather avoid Naruto, like fucking plague. Don't really dig the character. I don't really dig how they turn Naruto into quite the dick of a parent in many cases too. It seems it was just hard to care about it,
Finish.
and damn sure the story's just far more appealing beforehand. Clearly,
Rank up.
woo, new rank. I'm trying to think of oh yeah, the Storm games also had like 2 more that was on PS3 and 360. Generations and Revolutions. Revolutions didn't even really have much of a real story to it. Generations was actually far more engaging, just because they did do at least a generally good job at trying to lay out the important story of every character as you played through it, but also the visual novel style cutscenes gets old and shit like that, versus something with like actual 3D models being animated and looking so beautiful with the real cutscenes in the main games, like the first Storm game. With that on PS3, I was so happy. I played that demo right off the bat when we got the PS3, and I loved it to where I went hard for making sure I got the first Storm game, and loved it to death. It was definitely just a bit awkward how they did skip some characters and decided to finally bring back the first generation in a future game just so they could go, oh yeah, remember these guys? Oh yeah, they were there, yeah, yeah. We didn't forget them in the last one, no, nothing like that. Probably tried to cut it because they thought it was filler till it was brought back up in Shippuden. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like that, honestly. I'm also fasting, and I am on my 3rd day of fasting.
Chambara.
Choosing to just kind of zone out on this as well to help me make sure I continue to fast properly. Because it is definitely not easy sometimes, I swear.
Round 1. Ready? Fight. KO.
For sure, though, it's a bit of a
Round 2.
strange situation how much Bleach just doesn't have very many games.
Ready?
And, you know, you always have the fact that certain animes do get games, but sometimes they just don't give a shit to port it into, or to localize it. To where we get shit like how Sword Art Online's first game was actually on PSP, and with that Vita game, Hollow Fragment, it ended up being the remaster of that
KO.
PSP game. But they still didn't dub it. Not only that, but, you know,
Finish.
the visual novel cutscenes definitely makes it feel pretty cheap. And, it felt so cheap, down to the fact that, like, every couple areas felt like you were,
Yes.
you know, going through the same layout, the same, graphics, the same style. Just saying, oh no, it's totally a different place, even though it looks like the same place that we used about 15 different fucking times. No, it's totally a different place. Just shush and enjoy. And also the fact that the whole custom character thing wasn't really a custom character as much as it was just replacing Kirito, if you wanted. Instead of, you know, being your own character and kind of making your own story, which would have been more interesting, to be fair. It just is, like, hard, though, to look back at that stuff and go, yeah, they were fine. Sadly, even as a big-time Sword Online fan, even when I first bought them, I could tell that they were not very good games. Playing the first Hollow Fragment, or the remastered re-Hollow Fragment on PS4, also Lost Song, and then even the next games, just, like, they always recycled assets like crazy. That like, not only in the same game, but future games, and it never felt like there was any real effort put into it. It was probably just a paycheck, which ends up being a lot of licensed games. The thing is with licensed games is that it depends on the license sometimes, but also it depends on, are the people behind it actually passionate about said license, willing to care about making that licensed game good. I mean, damn sure, I have a feeling that a lot of people who worked under LucasArts back then, when that was a thing, were very passionate. You, like, I
Chambara.
mean, for all the Star Wars and Indiana Jones games that was made, let alone the point-and-click
Let's go.
adventure titles that they also specialized in, like, they went far. And it's a bummer that LucasArts ain't around anymore, because I would be loving it if they were still around making some really good games. Damn sure I freaking
Round one.
miss the likes of proper old school Battlefront.
Ready? Fight. KO.
I mean, like, classic Battlefront alone is hard to not miss, especially after what EA did.
Round two.
Which is probably why they have the remasters, and I'm not
Ready?
sure whether to like it or dislike it, because I like that we have online for them on stuff like Nintendo Switch, because for sure being able to play that portably and in a decent manner compared to, let's say, how the PSP had Battlefront 2, and while it's impressive what it was able to pull off, it's also definitely not very, it's so awkward on PSP versus Vita
KO.
when you don't have the second joystick. And that kind of shit alone kills some PSP games, admittedly. Even though it's not too bad to get
Ready?
used to the whole face button thing.
Fight! KO.
Like, the face button shit is a little weird on PSP,
Finish.
but to be fair, they still pulled off a lot with being able to do that, because we still got a lot of shooters on it that you wouldn't have expected to have seen on PSP otherwise. Like, not only did we get Medal of Honor heroes, but, like, stuff that blew my mind was shit like Splinter Cell Essentials. And if by some chance Critical Nobody ever sees my streams and hears me talk good about this, sorry, I just genuinely grew up with it, got used to some of the strangeness with the controls, and it was still cool because, I mean, it wasn't like the freaking GBA Splinter Cell stuff. It felt more like a real Splinter Cell experience. And, you know, more Michael Ironside, more story. It felt like a good time, even back then. And definitely when you can play these games on Vita through its emulation, it makes it so much better to play these games. Especially to where now I can, like, for example, enjoy the hell out of the Gun port for PSP. Gun being a game that I at least tried to play on YouTube, and it seemed like a massively cut down my freaking stream or some shit on me, which was so weird, and I'm still pissed off about that, Google. But I love that game. That is a game that deserves to be remembered more, especially because it was on more consoles, and it pulled off a more engaging experience sooner than Red Dead Redemption. And while I have played a little bit of it so far, it's not bad. I just still love Gun for a lot of what it did. And I was so bummed that we never got Magruder's Revenge, the Gun sequel that almost happened, as it was teased in Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, as Neversoft made Gun. And, you know, we never got that. Instead, we got a bunch of Guitar Heroes before they just simply became a Call of Duty machine part. Which is a huge bummer, especially because I'd rather Neversoft be a freaking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater machine than a freaking Guitar Hero or even Call of Duty machine. Because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I grew up on those things hardcore, and I still love them. And I do enjoy the remake for 1 and 2, but I'm definitely cautious about the remake for 3 and 4. And also, absolute bullshit that they couldn't bring back Spider-Man in the remake, just saying. Because that is one of the coolest things about the original Pro Skater 2, is that you can unlock Spider-Man, and he's like using his webs to freaking swing his skateboard around him and shit. It's freaking badass as hell, to where it's hard to not absolutely love that. Just being real. Granted, though, I just grew up with Spider-Man when he was actually appealing.
Chambara.
So, you know,
Here we go.
as someone who, like, grew up with, for example, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies that I love, and I even think people are a little harsh on Spider-Man 3.
Round 1. Ready?
Marvel definitely used to be better, and I'm even actually going out and finally, for example, watch one of the movies that I missed when I was younger that got made before the whole MCU garbage. That was the Thomas Jane Punisher. And while I liked the Punisher we got on Netflix for a bit, because it wasn't actually too bad of a series. I thought the actor did a good job in the role of Frank Castle. I'm definitely interested in seeing what Thomas Jane did, especially as also I, for a short time, did play the PS2 game and loved it a lot. Apparently, it's made by the frickin' it was made by the guy. It was made by the guys who did Saints Row, and apparently they even recycled some like animations since then and shit, which was interesting to find out. Yeah, whatever. But can't say I really like. I never outright owned it, but I played the demo and sometimes download the PC version. It's more than functional game. It's actually a pretty decent experience if you are a Punisher fan. And Thomas Jane even played the character there. And back then they were clearly going to try and set up the MCU. When, for example, in Spider-Man 2, he was seen in the background for a bit. When MJ's running to go and see Peter after the end of the movie. He's, like, clearly there and everything, and, makes you a little bummed that you couldn't have seen, him and Tobey Maguire team up, maybe, in a movie. At least I think that would have been badass. And, sounds like, the third Deadpool movie kind of jokes about there having been so many different versions of the Punisher over the years. I'm definitely going to eventually see Deadpool and Wolverine, but kind of holding off on it for if my dad actually wants to watch it with me, since we both watched the X-Men movies as they went on. And I think they're more than fine, even still. It's just the later ones I can't really care about. Like Apocalypse was the most whatever, to where I can't care about it in comparison to, let's say,
Chambara.
X-Men 3: The Last Stand, or even Wolverine Origins. As I know a lot of people hate that movie. I know a lot of people even hate X-Men 3, but I thought they were much better movies. And same with even the likes of what is it, freaking Dark Phoenix. I hated that movie, honest to God. But everything else was pretty much more than enjoyable. Can't say I was ever really that much of a fan of who they got for Mystique after the original trilogy. As I kind of preferred who they had for Mystique in the first three X-Men movies. Even though Jennifer Lawrence is clearly a good actor, or actress, I should say. And I even enjoy her in Hunger Games as someone who even read the original trilogy. I did enjoy the Hunger Games movies, and I enjoyed her version of Katniss in them. But, for as much as I enjoyed But definitely shit like her whole. Maybe you should start changing the name from X-Men to X-Women because the women seem to do all the work around here. It's just like the most like dumb freaking claim that could ever come out of the mouth of Mystique, let's be real. Especially when Mystique, for most of those prequels, weren't even actually trying to truly be a part of the X-Men. It was actively, you know, choosing to not be. To where, like, practically every movie was everyone trying to get Mystique to join them again. And maybe the prequel is not so engaging, if you ask me. Yeah, because that's freaking attractive to put a fucking sticker on your face. Like, what is that? One of those rub-off tattoos or whatever, like a fucking kid uses? That just disappears over time? Sure it looks like. Just now kind of realizing it looks like one of those temporary tattoos. It just makes it seem so ridiculous that people would ever do that shit, honestly. Man. For real though, I at least think that Wolverine Origins was better than people gave it credit for. Despite, yes, the bad special effects, I at least think people were a little bit extra ridiculously worked up because of how Deadpool was treated. Because, you know, they couldn't have just waited till the sequel where he was clearly able to survive and then just go all shh at the camera. Like, hey, guess what? My mouth ain't sewn shut anymore. Hey, guess what? I'll probably be able to be a shit talker in the next movie just fine. And I kind of was here too, so, what's the issue? I at least thought it was interesting enough, especially with shit like when we saw Wolverine and Sabretooth through those wars of years was so badass and made me wish that there could have been actually like a Wolverine movie focused on those times specifically, because that would have been so engaging as a Wolverine movie, guaranteed. I mean, especially when you saw, like, for example, them in the Civil
Chambara.
War. Like, that alone freaking
Here we go.
would be just badass to see those two in. And I also thought that they did a good job at casting Sabretooth in that movie. It was really good, even though the one from the first movie was more accurate to his design.
Round one. Ready? Fight.
Ooh.
KO.
Yeah.
Round two.
Also, gotta say the game for
Ready?
Origins Wolverine is so much fun on PS3 and Xbox 360. Makes you wish that there was at least like a remaster of it, despite how Disney probably won't do it just because that movie's infamous. close. I'm kind of digging being able to do the whole pro thing online though. Only because after a while of just doing all the CPUs on the original one you had to enjoy on the Wii, it got old just doing the CPUs, and when people aren't quite as good sometimes. For sure I could say that the online on here is a nice touch, but definitely they really should have just given us more sports than this, or at least ensure that we also had the boxing and baseball back. So it would be hard to not love the baseball being back with the new motion controls. Being able to do more specific kind of pitches and shit. Oh, man. Almost through Tuesday, and I will have officially fasted 3 days in a row. Woo! Seriously though, it does take a while to get an opponent sometimes. I mean, damn.
Chambara. Here we go.
seriously though, how about some more appealing stuff for men here? How about that? Can I still be nice? Yeah, I am, but I'm about to go up to be, it seems. I'm trying to get my now jailbroken Bat model PS3 to be able to like pirate games and shit, especially because some are just so over the top expensive, like Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. I mean, apparently Disney don't care to, let us actually have a remaster for that, for example. Which, to be fair, we should be more than reasonable for that and Edge of Time, especially when they're both considered loved titles in the Spider-Man gaming sort of lineup. I mean, one part of why people seem to love those two is due to the fact that they kind of harken back to that first Spider-Man 3D game, as well as the next about 3 games after that. Because if you count the PSP version of Spider-Man 2, it plays just like the first Spider-Man movie game, and thus it's basically hey, will this be good enough? Because I don't think we can pull off the open world shit on a PSP. But they tried to with Spider-Man 3 somehow, which is kind of a nightmare to check out, honestly.
Chambara.
Like,
Here we go.
some games they just don't give a shit about the performance of when they port it over to shit, and that always is frustrating as hell.
Round 1. Ready? Fight!
But I actually blocked that though. Okay, that feels
Round 2.
all too weird. Like, I actually had my sword held
Ready?
this way, but I was still trying to block it.
Fight!
So, the fact that didn't register proper as a block was very much annoying.
KO.
Man. Clearly this is probably not as real as the real thing,
Ready?
because of course the whole supercharged strikes and whatnot is a little bit
KO.
yeah.
Finish.
But there were definitely plenty of more linear Spider-Man games back then, and they were definitely good experiences and deserve remasters. If freaking Disney gives a shit to actually have that happen. But to be fair, I really don't think they give a shit. Seems like they never really give a shit, but whatever. One sec. Hey, you've been playing for a while. Shouldn't you take a break? How about shut up? I'll do it when you choose to. How about that? It is a bit ridiculous. Despite how I kind of get that it's probably in part due to definitely a more casual crowd playing these Wii Sports and now the game Nintendo Switch Sports. Like the crowd that got a Wii just to play the sports games is huge. It's one of the reasons why the Wii is like one of the most popular consoles of all time. And I gotta say, I wish that since this was also the follow-up to Wii Sports Resort, that we got you know, the extra settings for also searching for games. Like, just saying, it's a little bit of a bummer that we don't, for example, have the ability to just choose, hey, 100-pin bowling again. Let's enjoy that, but online now. Or the Chambara thing, but it was this game mode where you were facing a bunch of NPCs, and you were working through them all on the island, like basically gradually walking through the island, cutting them down with your swordplay sword. And that was really fun to do. It was one of my favorite modes, I'd say, on Resort. And something like that, with the new Chambara controls, would be really far from a bad idea. Far from a bad idea.
Let's go.
It would be amazing. Especially if that was something that you actually played online. I think I've faced this guy before.
Round one.
At least I think I have.
Ready? Fight! Round two. Ready?
Seriously though, wow, the super feminine boy designs here. It's kind of a little extra.
KO. Round three. Ready? Fight!
The art style in that sticker looks like it's straight up panty and stocking or some shit like that. Oh my god. Should I? Maybe. I do specifically also love this game because it does encourage me to be more active. And I do recognize that me having more workout time is always a good thing, of course. Then again, I guess you have freaking people also being offended over comments of someone being fat or chubby, like in freaking Sonic Generations, the
Chambara.
freaking remaster apparently censors Knuckles calling classic
Here we
Sonic
go.
chubby. I mean, as someone who has been chubby most of his life, I don't care at this point. Not only that, but guess what? Being chubby is unhealthy. So it would also help to actually go out of your way
Round
and
one.
accept that it is not only unhealthy,
Ready?
but you might actually benefit from oh,
KO.
good one.
Round two.
Just being chubby is
Ready?
unhealthy, and the fact that you're trying to censor that tells me that you guys are for some reason all happy with so many people being chubby. If anything, which is a little bit sus. Kind of like how people are so hardcore against freaking the 30 Days guy, Morgan Spurlock, and his documentary Super Size Me being considered, you know, more than more than reasonable to go, yeah, fast food ain't healthy.
Round three.
Because I saw that when I was very young, and got me and my mom to both stop eating
Ready?
fast food, especially when we realized stuff like MSG gave us massive migraines.
KO.
Ah!
Finish.
But seriously, they give you massive migraines, and it also causes cancer to grow. So I think that's more than enough of a reason to go fuck eating fast food, or fuck eating food with MSG, let alone aspartame, sucralose.
Yes.
Like, there's just so much of that stuff that I'd rather not eat anymore. Thanks to that being something that opened me and my mom's eyes. And then the sequel, which we actually didn't see too long back, I was all kinds of dumbfounded by the extra details that guy exposed. Like how all the fast food corporations go to the same people to curate their menus and even their restaurant backstory and shit like that. To where it's the same people giving the same ingredients, the same quality food to literally all these corporations. So McDonald's is getting the same crap from the same people that's giving Wendy's their crap, giving Taco Bell their crap, giving so on and so forth. It's and they even show little details like how they are all, and then we'll just paint some grill marks just to make it look quality. Painting grill marks. And then, you know, you also have the likes of, when he finds out what the FDA defines as free range, which happens to basically be if the the livestock ends up seeing the sun and steps outside at all. So he just bends a piece of metal fencing outward of a chicken run and just places a baby chick on the outside ground, and it sees the sun, and he's just all, now they're free range. Because literally the FDA was all, yeah, that works. And
Chambara.
while the guy probably wasn't some perfect person, seems like they love to talk about how he was a struggling alcoholic for quite some time in his life, and then also pointing out his relationship issues, like they have anything to do with the whole thing of eating McDonald's
Round
for 30
one.
days, or
Ready?
not just the likes of eating McDonald's for 30 days, but
KO.
oh, nice one. You almost knocked me back there, but I was able to use that right there.
Round two.
Just knock him all the way out. That was nice.
Ready? Fight.
Oh, nice one.
Round three. Ready? Fight.
Ooh. Oh, what the hell? I was actively trying to do that, and it actively said no to me.
Finish.
Okay, that right there was cheat game. Whatever. Yeah, I think I'll actually end it here. Because it's honestly a little hard to keep on wanting to play when moments like that happens when the motion controls fail ya. Honestly, as someone who grew up with the PlayStation Move on the PS3, I really thought it did a good job. Like, it really captured the motion for all kinds of sports pretty well with Sports Champions 1 and 2. Because they called the one on there Gladiator Duel, where he had a shield and a sword, or maybe a mace, or something like that. But basically, you're able to use your shield to block attacks, you can use your sword or whatever weapon to block attacks too. And the more you use your shield, the more it just starts to disintegrate and not be able to block shit very good. But it was so much fun, and I got really, really good on that. I'm honestly not much of a fan of the basketball. As I said, I'm about ready to quit anyways. But hey, maybe next time I'll